The Biden administration is staring down a key immigration deadline. It's been hurtling here now. It's almost arrived. In just 3 weeks, May 11th, Title 42 is set to expire, meaning border agents will no longer be able to expel asylum seekers very quickly, like they've been able to do for several years now. That was a COVID-era policy, and it's going away. Scripps News national correspondent John Moan is based in Texas, and he went to Juarez, Mexico, where thousands of migrants are camped right now, waiting and hoping.
Arepas and cafecitos are not customary Mexican snacks. The vendors hawk the Venezuelan cuisine here in Mexico in the Ciudad Juarez Cathedral Square, thousands of miles from their homeland.
There is not plenty of shelters. They have no money. They are staying on the streets.
They are stuck in one of the most unsafe border cities across the Rio Grande, Juarez, Mexico, near El Paso, Texas. They would prefer to be in the United States.
They want to pursue the American dream. They want to go to the United States. They don't want to stay in Mexico. And that's understandable. Who wants to stay in Mexico if there is a lot of violence?
In the last 10 years, Mexico transformed from being a country where refugees headed to the U.S. traveled through to a place where refugees may have no other choice than to stay. The UN says there are more than 87,000 Venezuelans in Mexico seeking asylum, in addition to thousands from other Central and South American countries. The Hope Border Institute says about 3,000 refugees are in shelters scattered through Juarez, a fifth being kids under 18. That figure may not count the hundreds of others camping out on the streets. Scenes like this are extraordinarily rare. Tears of relief and blessing himself in thanks, Venezuelan refugee Julio Yanez just got an appointment through a U.S. Customs and Border Protection smartphone app so that he may seek asylum in the United States. More often, asylum seekers face a daily frustration with the app called CBP-1 and say it needs more than divine intervention to work.
Hay algunos que le llega la foto, pero la foto le rebota y nunca llega a terminar el proceso, pues siempre. Son solamente un minuto que le da uno para hacer todo ese sistema.
These men told me that the CBP-1 app seldom opens, and when it does,
y a veces toma el rostro y tampoco abre la página.
It only works for minutes at a time and shuts down. Since the app launched in mid-January, Customs and Border Protection has processed more than 75,000 CBP-1 appointment requests. A U.S. Customs and Border Protection official tells Scripps News that the agency is aware of the problems and has worked to fix them as they arise, also adding they're aware that demand is high and that appointment slots fill up fast each day. Some people fed up with waiting make a run for it instead.
Quédese, no se mueva. Manos aquí, manos aquí. Entrelazca los dedos. Entrelazca los dedos. Vámonos. ¿Cuánto tiempo tiene viajando? ¿Hace cuánto salió de Guatemala?
Casi 40 días.
¿40 días?
Sí.
Ok. Bueno,
Mi familia ya no tiene comida, no tiene maíz. El maíz está muy caro ya, por eso venimos. Ya no tenemos solución.
Spanish is not the first language of these indigenous Guatemalans, but they said they left home more than a month and a half ago because of climate change and punishing poverty.
The federal government wants to ensure that people applying for asylum are doing so and crossing at official ports of entry. For people that are trying to cross between those ports of entry, you can see here, because of state law enforcement involvement and the National Guard, that their options are being winnowed down.
They all get transported to one of our facilities. We take the fingerprints, again, make sure there's no criminal history, and if there isn't, they get expelled back to Mexico. Again, because of the flow that we have, the numbers that we're seeing, we try and do this as quick as possible just so we keep the number of people in our facilities down.
¿Por qué vienes a los Estados Unidos?
Porque donde yo vivo es frontera también y está muy peligroso. El año pasado, pues exactos, empezó un pleito entre carteles de narcotraficantes de allá y acá.
Alita only wanted to be identified by her first name and did not want her face to be shown.
Pero no me lo han dado. O sea, yo intenté, siendo sincera, es la tercera vez que lo intento, pero no me han dado el asilo.
Scripps News was with the U.S. Border Patrol when agents detained her and her 2 children. Groups of migrants crossing into Santa Teresa, New Mexico are spotted easily with high-tech cameras. The migrants are processed and expelled back to Mexico under Title 42 authority. That is the pandemic-era public health order that allows federal agents to send them across without considering an asylum claim or affording other due process under immigration law. Federal agents expelled almost 88,000 migrants along the southwest border in March.
One of the possible consequences was not being granted their asylum claim if they do so in an improper and illegal manner.
The Biden administration is also considering jailing migrants who continuously are caught trying to cross illegally.
We don't really know what's going to happen. You know, we wouldn't be surprised if May 11th comes and Title 42 is not lifted.
Human rights advocates say they don't see much daylight between President Biden's border policies and those of Donald Trump.
Unfortunately, we haven't seen anything come out from the Republican or the Democrat. As a matter of fact, if anything, Reagan was Republican, and he came out with the amnesty.
Do you find it to be political expediency or political cowardice?
Yeah, I think it's both. And so under one administration, like the Trump administration, they make it really painful. So think of something like family separation. And under a Democratic administration, like the Biden administration, they might turn that dial of pain down a little bit, but they're using the same strategy, which is just make it painful for people to cross.
Critics say no matter what pain is inflicted to prevent crossing, people will come.
Well, there are about 100 million vulnerable people on the move right now. And since the Second World War, when we started counting, there's never been so many.
Because there's a global violence crisis.
Buscas asilo en los Estados
Sí,
Unidos.
queremos que Estados Unidos, por favor, pedimos en el nombre de Dios Todopoderoso al señor presidente Biden que por favor nos abra las puertas.
Which doesn't appear to be ending anytime soon, and in the springtime, crossings always increase. John Moan, Scripps News, Juarez, Mexico.